Today's lesson is called Asia's Favorite Drink. Hello, everyone. My name is Jeff.
I am Roger. Today we're going to be talking about drinks, things that you drink when you're thirsty and when you're not hungry enough to eat something. And if you want to hang out someplace with a friend, you might consider getting a beverage, a drink. So we're going to ask this question, what's the favorite drink of people in Asia? My answer would be tea, especially in China or here in Taiwan, like oolong tea. Am I right if I say that?
Well, I actually think that the oolong tea here in Taiwan is some of the best tea in the world, bar none. So if you're talking about my favorite drink here in Taiwan, yes, I would say oolong tea, but I don't think artisanal oolong tea is really super popular all over Asia. But you're on the right path there. Tea is what we're going to be talking about today. Specific forms of tea, including bubble milk tea, boba tea, that delicious drink that has taken the world by storm, which also happened to originate here in good old Taiwan. Anyways, though, folks, when we come back, we'll be talking about Asia's favorite drink and how you can consume it yourself.
Asia's favorite drink. Bubble milk tea is Taiwan's national drink. It has even been suggested that an image of bubble milk tea feature in Taiwan's passports. But Taiwan isn't the only place to be in love with milk tea. Hong Kong, Thailand, and India, to name a few, all have their own take on the beverage. And though tea itself comes from Asia, the addition of milk was in fact a British invention.
大家好，第一部分我们看到片语 to name just a few 表示举几个例子来说，其中的 just 可以省略。例如 There are pork, lamb, and beef dishes on the menu, to name just a few. 这份菜单上有猪肉、羊肉以及牛肉等料理，这些只是几个例子。接下来我们看到名词 beverage 意思是饮料。例如 After a long soccer game, nothing is better than a cold, icy beverage. 漫长的足球赛之后，来杯冰凉的饮料最棒了。
Okay, so we're talking about bubble milk tea. That is Taiwan's national drink. It has even been suggested that an image of bubble milk tea features in Taiwan's passports. Yes, my daughter has a Taiwan passport, and as you flip through the pages for the visa stamps and stuff like that, there are various images of places in Taiwan, famous locations and stuff like that, and someone has suggested that they put the image of bubble milk tea. I know there are some stores who sell Taiwan souvenirs. Some of those stores actually sell these little models of bubble milk tea that you can buy and give your friends when you go back home or when you travel abroad or something like that. But, not right now because of the virus and stuff. We can't be traveling, but still, it is very emblematic of Taiwan, bubble milk tea.
Bubble milk tea. Now, is bubble milk tea the most popular beverage in Asia? No, but boy, are you ever close. You were on the right path there or the right track before the break, and you're getting closer and closer. Is it tea? Not quite. Is it bubble milk tea? Not quite. No! Milk tea, though, is in fact Asia's favorite drink. Anyways, bubble milk tea is a big deal, but Taiwan isn't the only place to be in love with milk tea. There are many different types of varieties of milk tea, and it turns out that bubble milk tea is just one of them.
Yeah, there's a very basic kind of milk tea that I like. You just make black tea with a tea bag or with tea leaves or whatever, and then you simply add milk to it. But there are different ways people do this in different parts of Asia. Bubble milk tea in Taiwan, I believe, has the tapioca balls and stuff like that in it. That's a special feature of bubble milk tea here in Taiwan. But different countries in Asia do different things with milk tea. So here in the next sentence, sentence, it says Hong Kong, Thailand, and India, to name a few, all have their own take on the beverage. So first of all, let's talk about to name a few. Just to give you a few examples here, we've got Hong Kong, we've got Pratetai, Thailand, and we've got India. They all have different kinds of milk tea. They all have their own take on the beverage. So to have your own take just means they have their own way of doing it.
There you go. You have your own style, your own signature way of doing that thing. That's your own take. Anyways, Hong Kong, Thailand, India, to name a few. There are many more, but we're not going to list them all. That's what we're saying in this particular phrase. All have their own take on the beverage. By the way, when we do refer to a beverage, we're talking about a drink, usually a drink that's not water, okay? So milk tea, definitely a beverage. It's not a glass of cold water. You would just call that a glass of water. A beverage is being slightly more specific. Anyways, and though tea itself comes from Asia, the addition of milk was in fact a British invention. So there has been tea in China and in Asia for thousands of years. People have been consuming it for its very good benefits. It's good for you, stuff like that. But people didn't think to add milk to tea until much later. Yes, tea was discovered a long time ago, but it wasn't until the British decided to add milk to that tea did we actually get milk tea. This is when milk tea was invented. By the way, if you invent something, you create something that did not exist before. So you did not invent tea, let's say, but when you combined milk and tea, that very first time, okay, you invented it. It is your invention.
That's right. That's what the Brits did to tea. And here in Taiwan, and I suppose in China as well, it was traditional to drink tea straight. You did not add things to it. Like, I guess, to the Europeans, it's kind of weird or odd to add ice to beer. You're not supposed to do that. It's weird. It's savage. It's uncivilized. So I guess to Chinese people in Asia, adding sugar or milk to oolong tea just sounds really, really weird. So it took the Brits, it took the English people to add milk to their tea. I think they actually added milk to black tea, which is actually okay. It still seems kind of weird to add milk to oolong tea, at least to me. But we'll talk about this as our lesson continues. So let's move on now to the second part and talk about how the British people changed tea forever.
In the past, the British would drink their tea from expensive porcelain teacups. The heat from the tea would sometimes cause the cups to crack, so people began adding milk to lower the temperature. Nowadays, most Brits drink their tea in mugs, not expensive teacups, but the custom lives on. These mugs of hot, strong black tea, usually with a dash of milk and perhaps a teaspoonful of sugar, are often accompanied by a delicious chocolate biscuit.
第二部分我们看到一个单字 porcelain， 这个字是名词，意思是瓷器。举例来说 That porcelain vase once belonged to the emperor. 那个瓷质的花瓶曾经为皇帝所有。再来我们看到动词 crack， 指使破裂、裂开、断裂。例如 You won't be able to crack those nuts without a tool. 你不用工具是没有办法敲碎这些坚果的。另外这个字也可以当名词，指缝隙、裂痕。我们可以说 When the rock hit the car window, it left a crack in the middle of the glass. 当石头击中车窗时，它在玻璃中央留下一道裂痕。再补充一个相关片语 crack up， 有以下几种意思。第一，表示使大笑，像是 The joke cracked up the class. 这个笑话让全班哈哈大笑。第二，表示精神崩溃。举例来说 Phyllis cracked up when her cat disappeared. Phyllis 的猫不见时，她情绪崩溃了。第三，表示飞机坠毁、汽车、船等撞毁。我们可以说 The ship cracked up on the rocks. 那艘船撞上岩石撞毁了。
Milk tea. How simple. You take some tea, You add milk to it. Who would have ever thought this combination would become so popular the world over? Yes, milk tea is Asia's favorite drink, and it's popular elsewhere in the world as well, especially there in Great Britain. Yes, in the past, the British would drink their tea from expensive porcelain teacups. Now, what does this have to do with milk tea? Well, bear with us. At first, the British, they love their tea. Okay, how would they take their tea? How would they drink it? Well, first of all, they would drink it from expensive porcelain teacups. But sometimes, well, that tea was too hot, and it could actually affect that porcelain in a negative way. By the way, porcelain, I don't mean to turn anyone's stomach, especially when we're talking about a delicious beverage like milk tea, but porcelain is that material that your toilet is probably made out of, that white glimmering material usually that's quite easy to clean. And yes, toilets are often made out of porcelain.
Exactly, and porcelain is a kind of ceramic, but I guess it's thin in this particular instance. So in England there, they would drink their tea from these really fancy and expensive teacups that were made of porcelain, and the heat from the tea would sometimes cause the cups to crack. So yes, it's very thin porcelain, and if you pour hot tea into these cups, sometimes it would cause the porcelain to crack. Here, crack is a verb. It just means a crack will form. Sometimes you see that, well, with sidewalks, I suppose, in the hot summer, it might cause these sidewalks to crack. That's the verb. But then when you see that line that has been formed in the concrete, then that is a crack. You could also use it as a noun. And there will be cracks in your porcelain cups if you pour hot tea into them sometimes.
There you go. These porcelain teacups back in the day, they were delicate. Some hot tea, you poured in there, and the temperature differential between the cup itself, or the teacup, I should say, itself, and then the tea, it could cause some problems. That porcelain might slightly break or crack. So how did people solve this problem? They added something to bring the temperature of the tea down. They added milk to the tea, okay? And this kind of solved the problem, and this is where milk tea came from. People were solving a problem when it came to tea and how it used to crack their teacups. How interesting. So yes, the heat from the tea would cause the cups to crack sometimes, so people began adding milk to lower the temperature. Now, nowadays, most Brits drink their tea in mugs, not expensive teacups, but the custom lives on. So people these days, nowadays, currently, they don't have those expensive porcelain teacups anymore. They just drink their tea out of a mug, and those mugs aren't going to crack or break unless you drop them on the ground. So they don't need to add milk to that tea anymore. But they still do, because milk tea is super, super delicious. So this custom, it lives on. It has not died out. In fact, milk tea has taken the world by storm.
And of course, y'all know that in Europe there we've got a great big island off the northern coast of France. That island is called Great Britain, okay? And that's where England and Wales and Scotland are. So if you use the word Brit, which is short for Britain, it refers to people from there, specifically from the United Kingdom. So most Brits there, hey, they drink their tea in mugs nowadays. I guess it's more convenient that way, and they don't so much use the expensive teacups. But they've kept the tradition. It lives on. To live on just means it continues, and it has done so for a long time. There's another verb phrase, live on, that means something slightly different. That means you use some kind of food to survive, but the pronunciation is slightly different. If it lives on, then you kind of stress the word on, lives on. But if you live on something, that means you use that thing to survive. I lived on coconuts and water when I lived on the tropical island.
Which tropical island? When were you stranded on a tropical island? You've never told me about this, Roger.
That's just an example. We come up with example sentences all the time. But hey, some people move to the United States and hate the food so much there that they live on pao mian for days at a time.
It sounds like me in college. I pretty much ate instant noodles all the time. I lived on instant noodles. I especially like the chicken flavor instant noodles. I can't get that flavor here in Taiwan. It's a shame. Anyways, more on milk tea, okay? Nowadays, these days, if you're in Britain there and you want a cup of tea, it's going to come in a mug, not in an expensive porcelain teacup. But you know what? Even though that mug is sturdy and it's not going to crack, people still fill those mugs with steaming hot black tea. Then they put milk in and sugar as well. They still drink milk tea even though they don't really have to. Anyways, these mugs of hot, strong black tea, usually with a dash of milk and perhaps a teaspoon of sugar, are often accompanied by a delicious chocolate biscuit. That sounds delicious.
Yeah, we should mention in England they say biscuit. In America we say cookie. They're similar and different at the same time, but in any case here, yes, they put a dash of milk in there, which is just a small amount of milk. When I have coffee, I put more than a dash of milk in my coffee. But yeah, that sounds about the right amount for tea. Just a little bit of milk in the tea and maybe some sugar, a teaspoonful of sugar. A tablespoonful of sugar would probably be too much. You don't want to get diabetes or something like that. So yeah, cut back on your sugar there, but it does sound oh so tasty.
Tasty or delicious. I shouldn't have said that. The delicious chocolate biscuit sounds delicious. That's kind of redundant. Tasty's a pretty good word, though, that I could have substituted. Anyways, folks, with that, it's time for us to take a short break, but don't go away. We'll be right back after this.
The British introduced milk tea to Hong Kong, which from 1841 to 1997 was under British rule. Popular in diners across the territory, Hong Kong-style milk tea is filtered through long sackcloth sieves to remove the bitterness and strengthen the flavor. But it's the addition of sweet condensed milk that really gives the tea its distinctive rich taste.
第三部分我们看到一个单字 filter， 这个字是动词，意思是过滤，像是When hiking, you should bring a device to filter water and make it drinkable. 健行时应该要带可以过滤水，使之能够饮用的设备。另外，这个字也可以当名词，意思是过滤器。例如 You should buy a filter if you want to drink tap water in Taipei. 如果你要在台北生饮自来水，你应该买一个过滤器。再补充一个相关片语 filter out something 表示滤除……滤掉……我们可以说 This machine filters out dangerous chemicals that could be in the water. 这台机器过滤掉水里可能会有的危险化学物质。最后我们看到形容词 condensed 指浓缩的、压缩的。举例来说 Betty added water to the condensed juice mix. Betty 把水加进浓缩综合果汁。或是 A condensed version of the long research paper was handed to the press. 这份冗长研究报告的精简版本发送给媒体了。
So, as you know, of course, because of the Opium Wars and various events in history, Hong Kong was controlled by the British from 1841 to 1997. So the British introduced milk tea to Hong Kong, which during that time was under British control. It was under British rule. It was a crown colony of the British Empire.
There you go. Tea has been around forever in Asia, but when the British came to Hong Kong there and they had their colony there, they introduced milk tea to Asia at that point in Hong Kong. How cool. Now, popular in diners across the territory, Hong Kong-style milk tea is filtered through long sackcloth sieves to remove the bitterness and strengthen the flavor. By the way, if you filter something, you pass one thing through another thing, usually called a filter, to remove unwanted particles or to remove things that might be dirty. Like often I filter my water, my tap water, before I drink it. I remove things that I don't want in that water or things that might be making that water slightly dirty. By the way, a filter and a sieve are somewhat similar. But here, let's get back to another vocabulary word, the word strengthen. If you strengthen something, you make that thing stronger in some way, shape, or form. The opposite is to weaken something.
I personally like the taste of bitterness in my tea, but some people don't, so you need to use these kinds of devices to remove the bitterness from that tea and also to strengthen the flavor, to make the flavor stronger. But it's the addition of sweet condensed milk that really gives the tea its distinctive, rich taste. Distinctive means unique, special, one of a kind. Nothing else has that flavor.
There you go. All right, folks, with that, it's time for us to take a break. But don't worry, don't fret. The Chinese teacher is waiting in the wings.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第一部分写到，香港、泰国和印度对奶茶这个饮料都有各自的诠释。那么文中用到 take 来指看法、态度、诠释，它当这个意思来解释时是可数名词，后面常常会接 on 再加名词。所以我们说 somebody's take on something 就表示某人对什么所做出的诠释看法。例如 What's your take on the issue？ 你对于这个议题有什么样的看法呢？好，我们再造个例句。 Audiences loved Johnny Depp's unique take on Captain Jack Sparrow。 好，观众喜欢这个强尼戴普对杰克船长这个角色的独特诠释。那顺便补充一个跟 take 当名词有关的片语， double take 可以表达再次仔细的看，那么 take 在这边当名词来表达反应， double take 就是两次的反应嘛，那么可以用来表达因为惊讶而再次仔细的看，或者是你可能因为没有心理准备啊，不了解或是心不在焉，然后愣住慢半拍。好，那我们常常用这个片语去搭配动词 do， 例如He did a double take when he saw a dog on the surfboard. 当他看到一只狗在冲浪板上的时候呢，他吓一跳，又再仔细的看了一次，看自己有没有看错这样。好，那么课文第二部分写到，英国人喝热红茶通常会加少许的牛奶，或许还会加1茶匙的糖。那么文中用到 a dash of milk 来指少许牛奶，然后用到 a teaspoonful of sugar 来表达1茶匙的糖。好，那我们先来看 dash 这个字当名词，它是指少量、少许。当这个意思来解释时，我们常常会用单数型，我们用 a dash of 加上不可数名词去表达少量的什么，像你可以搭配盐巴、糖等等的。好，那么 teaspoonful 在这边它是指1茶匙的量，我们用 a teaspoonful of就相当于 a teaspoon of。 好，那我们来顺便学习料理常用的这些计量单位吧。好，第一个 teaspoon 它是指茶匙、1小匙，那么1茶匙大约是5毫升，我们在食谱上面常看到它会被缩写成TSP 1点。好，那么第二个单位 tablespoon， 大家有时候会把这两个搞混啊。teaspoon 是茶匙、1小匙，那么 tablespoon 是餐匙、大匙。这个1餐匙、1大匙呢，大约是15毫升，它缩写就会是 TB 1点，或者是 TBS 1点，或者是 TBSP 1点。好，第三个介绍的是 fluid ounce， 它是指液量盎司或者是液体盎司，将近30毫升。那你常会看到它被缩写成 FL 1点，然后 OZ 1点。那么 fluid 就有液体的意思， ounce 是盎司。第四个介绍是 cup， 很简单，那么在衡量的时候 cup 它大约是240毫升。然后第五个是品托 pint 将近475毫升，它被常常缩写成 PT 1点，那么这个 pint 常常用来当冰淇淋啊或者是啤酒的计量单位哦。好，第六个介绍的是 quart 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 是夸脱，它将近950毫升，常常被缩写成 QT 1点。那么一个 quart 就相当于2个 pint 2品托，它可以用来当牛奶啊、冰淇淋，有时候可能看到是油漆啊、机油等等的计量单位。那么第7个是 gallon 是加仑，它将近3800毫升，常常缩写成 GAL 1点，那它就相当于4个夸脱或者是8个品托。好，那常常会被用来当水啊、汽油、牛奶等等的计量单位。好，那么以上今天重点整理，我们回顾今天的单字吧。
Invention. The wheel is said to be one of the most important inventions. Porcelain. The museum has a collection of fine porcelain plates. Crack. If you pour hot water into that glass, it might crack. Nowadays. Children spend too much time indoors nowadays. Filter. The water needs to be filtered before you can drink it. Strengthen. Mark hoped to strengthen his body by going to the gym. Distinctive. The addition of lemon gives this dessert its distinctive flavor.
Okay, everyone. With that, today's article is now complete. But, as always, we sure hope that you guys have enjoyed reading along with us. Anyways, I'm Jeff.
I am Roger.
See you next time.